Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, and each day at 9 o'clock, I come to you with the teaching of the day based on the liturgy of our readings, and I've been focusing on the first readings since I often feel that these are the readings that get neglected. The Gospels are easy to understand, but the first readings are always a bit tough, and I'd like that we walk in those areas where we are not always comfortable. So our text today is taken from the first book of Maccabees, chapter 4, verses 36 and 37, and then verses 52 to 59. And I've entitled today's teaching, The Story of the Jewish Feast of Hanukkah. So let's understand this, because Hanukkah is celebrated at around the same time as Christmas is. And as a consequence, many people abroad wish you a happy holidays, which includes Hanukkah and Christmas. I always encourage people at Christmas time, Catholics, to wish other Catholics or other Christians a happy Christmas rather than the happy holidays. But let's look at our text and see why this feast of Hanukkah is celebrated, and it comes from the Bible. So, then Judas and his brothers said, "See, our enemies are crushed. Let us go up and cleanse the sanctuary and dedicate it." So all the army assembled and went up to Mount Zion. Early in the morning, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Chislev, in the 148th year, they rose and offered sacrifice as the Lord directs on the new altar of burnt offerings that they had built. At that very season, and on the very day that the Gentiles had profaned it, it was dedicated with songs and harps and lutes and cymbals. All the people fell on their faces and worshipped and blessed heaven, who had prepared them. So they celebrated the dedication of the altar for 8 days and joyfully offered burnt offerings. They offered a sacrifice of well-being and a thanksgiving offering. They decorated the front of the temple with golden crowns and small shields. They restored the gates and the chambers for the priests and fitted them with doors. There was very great joy among the people, and the disgrace brought about the Gentiles was removed. Then Judas and his brothers and all the assembly of Israel determined that every year at that season, the days of dedication of the altar should be observed with joy and gladness for 8 days, beginning with the 25th day of the month of Chislev. So, let's now understand a bit of this text, and really this is the end. This narrative really tells you the end of the Maccabean Revolution, where the Jews under Judas Maccabeus stood up against the great king Antiochus IV Epiphanes, the Greek king. So let's understand this text, the background to this text a bit. You see, the kingdom of the Greek king Antiochus IV was threatened on every side. So faced with a need to defend his kingdom, he decided to unify them through what was called aggressive Hellenization, that was the imposition of Greek culture. And for money, he resorted to the pillage and the plunder of Jerusalem. For the Jews, their problem was compounded by a struggle for power within the community, and these included the struggle for the high priestly office. All the parties in the struggle sought, therefore, to win the favor of the king. And Antiochus promised to support the one who acted most according to his will and to provide the money he so desperately needed for his military campaigns. So Antiochus begins to meddle in Jewish religious affairs in a way that no other Greek ruler before him had done. Now, one reason for Antiochus's aggression on Jerusalem was his chronic shortage of funds. But the rivalries among the Jews for power provided him with another reason, and that's what often happens in our lives. We give other people a chance to enter into our life when two brothers can't get along. Now, rumor had reached Palestine that Antiochus had lost his life in a second campaign against the Egyptians. And relying on this rumor, Jason, who had been dispossessed of his high priestly office, he comes out of exile with a force of about 1,000 men, and he invaded Jerusalem. Remember, he is attacking his own brothers. Jason is attacking his own brothers. He took the city and he forced the high priest, whose name was Menelaus, to take refuge in a citadel. But Jason did not gain control of the government and of the city, perhaps because he massacred his own people and was very, therefore, alienated by them. They didn't want him. He had to flee once more to the region of what is called the Transjordan. Transjordan is beyond the Jordan, but he was hunted like a fugitive till his death. Now, interpreting these events as a rebellion against his rule, Antiochus, who was not really dead, but they thought he had died in a campaign against the Egyptians, he comes back and he ravaged Jerusalem, and he placed a royal commission there to keep the people in line. To enforce his rule, Antiochus sent his commander, and the commander's name was Apollonius. And he sends Apollonius to Jerusalem in the year 167. And Apollonius continued the reign of terror. Initially, Apollonius presented himself to the Jews as a man of peace, but then he showed his true colors and he massacred many of the people and took many of them slaves. He looted the city and partially even destroyed the city of Jerusalem. He erected in Jerusalem a citadel called Acra, and you can read this in 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 33 to 40. Acra was a Greek city within the larger city of Jerusalem. Acra remained a hated symbol of foreign domination for some 25 years. And in Acra, there were Gentiles who followed Hellenization, but there were many Jews who also went and stayed in this citadel and began to behave like the Greeks, worshipping their gods. Let me give you one example. They had gymnasiums, but before, and very much like our gymnasiums, not our hi-fi gymnasiums in Mumbai, but if you go to, in Mumbai, you have these very local gymnasiums, which they call bhaiya gyms. Yeah, you notice that there is always the image of Hanuman, and the trainer will tell you bow down to Hanuman first, and then you'll get your power. Now, this is all very good for a Hindu, but it's not good for a Christian. Yeah, and Antiochus and his commander was doing the same thing in the city of Acra, making people, in the name of becoming strong and intelligent and wise, bowing down to Greek gods. Now, Antiochus was set to unleash a thorough Hellenization for the Jewish people. Yahweh was going to be displaced in favor of Zeus, or Yahweh was identified with Zeus. They were telling the Jews, don't worry, Yahweh and Zeus are the same. And this is the evil that many people do today when they say all gods are the same. This is the same evil perpetuated again and again. All gods are the same. No, all gods are not the same. Not all the same. Christ is not the same as other gods. God is one. Yeah, if you're talking about all gods being one, that's another lie. At least for the Christian faith, it's a lie. Somebody else in another religion may choose to believe this as their confession of their faith, but that's good for them. It's not good for us. Let us not keep compromising on our faith because of conveniences that we need to have, relationships that we need to keep, workplaces that we need to go. These are conveniences. Yeah, don't make your convenience an excuse to ask for an exemption. Now, in the year 167, Antiochus issued an edict, and by this edict he cancelled all the concessions made by his father. I said this to you in the Wednesday teaching too. So he prohibited the religious customs of the Jews and he imposed Greek religion and customs. Now, what happened as a consequence of this? This set off the Jewish resistance movement, and a man called Matthias and his 5 sons became the founder of the Jewish resistance movement. Matthias, whose name means a gift of God, was a priest belonging to the class of Joarib, which held the first rank among the 24 divisions established by King David to perform the weekly services in the temple. This strong Orthodox Jewish man lived with his family in Jerusalem at the time that Antiochus made this edict prohibiting the Jewish religion from being practiced. So, hoping to escape from submitting to the demands of the edict, Mattathias moved his family to Modin, which was a small village about 20 miles northeast of Jerusalem. Now, we are told that the king's representatives reached the village of Modin to enforce the law. All the residents were compelled to take part in the sacrifice. Mattathias was asked to take the lead in offering the sacrifice since he was a man of respect and renown. In return, he and his sons were told that they would be numbered among the friends of the king and honored with silver, gold, and many gifts. But Mattathias refused, and when a fellow Jew who wished to comply, who went to offer the sacrifice, Mattathias slew him on the spot along with the king's officer, and he broke and tore down that altar. Now, along with those who were zealous, he and his family fled to the hills. This spontaneous revolt turned into a full-scale war between Orthodox Jews and Antiochus, this Seleucid king. Now, in the first year of the resistance movement, the numbers grew gradually, and you can read this in 1 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 29 to 41. Others who were also fleeing from the persecution went into hiding places in the wilderness. Initially, they did not form part of Mattathias' army. In their rather idealistic zeal, they refused to protect themselves against the enemy when sadly they were attacked on the Sabbath and horribly slaughtered. Now, when Mattathias and his band heard what happened to these Jews who did not protect themselves, he first mourned, and he mourned very deeply for them. As a result of this, Mattathias and his band then suspended the Sabbath law as long as the resistance lasted. And listen to this, they suspended the Sabbath law, as we have been now having a dispensation literally given to Catholics because of the COVID. But please remember that this Sabbath law was suspended as long as the resistance lasted. When the resistance got over, everybody went back to worship the Lord, as we should be doing, which is not sadly happening. Yeah. Now, Mattathias and his band conducted guerrilla war tactics against the Seleucids, and this is how he kind of got the people together, and he says, no, if we have to take up arms now, we take up arms. So they tore down pagan altars and forcibly circumcised the uncircumcised boys. Remember that Antiochus had prohibited the circumcision. However, when Mattathias saw his death approaching, he called his sons together and he gave them his last message. Now, after the death of Mattathias, Judas took command. Judas was one of the sons. Judas took command as the leader of the resistance movement. His efforts were so successful that the whole revolt is called the Maccabean War, after his nickname. Under his leadership, a tiny guerrilla war began to snowball into a full-scale military engagement in which smaller Jewish forces, literally smaller Jewish forces, managed to defeat the might of Antiochus's army. This period ended in the year 164 with the rededication of the temple, and this marked the end of the religious persecution, which brings us to today's text. But I had to explain all of this in order to just get to the text of today. So today's text tells us how Judas and his men marched into Jerusalem to cleanse the sanctuary and to dedicate it. They got rid of all the items connected to the Greek religion and cult. The defiled altar was torn down and the stones stored to one side until there should come, as we are told, a prophet who would tell them what to do with them. They reintroduced all items that were connected with the cult of Yahweh. Exactly 3 years to the month of the abomination of desolation that took place, which was when the altar of Zeus was established in December 164, 3 years earlier, when the statue of Zeus was imposed in the temple. That's what's called the abomination of desolation. The temple was now purified and rededicated to Yahweh with great feasting, and so great was the rejoicing that the resistance movement decided to institute a new feast to commemorate this historic event, which is called the Feast of Lights, because of all the joyous effect created when the candles were finally lit. Today the Jews celebrate this feast as the Feast of Hanukkah, and they celebrate this a few days before Christmas. They celebrate it by lighting candles. One candle is lit every evening until the 8th day, when 8 candles are lit. And so I hope you understand this text a bit clearly. I want to give you a blessing today. It's been a long teaching, so I'm just going to give you a blessing. But after this blessing, and when you're done with this teaching, close your eyes and just say a little prayer of thanksgiving, especially for yourself today. If you feel that you have gone away from God and you need to come back to God, I'm asking Catholics to stand up for your faith. Stand up for your faith. And the way you stand up for your faith is being faithful to your faith. Yeah? I beg you, this attitude, this lackadaisical attitude of making excuses and just following New Age thinkings and New Age gurus and saying I don't need God. And the other day somebody passed a comment, a dear friend of mine, and I was very upset. And he said, you can't debate with religion because religion is belief and it begins and ends at that point. These are, I find, such sad statements justifying our refusal to fall in line with God's will. And we have seen in the history of the Bible that those who make these mistakes sadly themselves experience great pain and suffering. So I pray that many young people will come back to the Lord, and that we adults become good examples, not scandals, but we become good examples to our young people. God bless you, and may I give you a blessing now. The Lord be with you, and may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Do like this video, hit that like button. You can subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so, and press that little bell icon so that every time we have a teaching going up, half an hour before, YouTube will remind you on your phones that there is a teaching going up and that you can join us. I'd love if more of you join us at 9 o'clock in the morning, so that collectively, wherever we are across the world, we are a people united in faith. And on behalf of the Love, Joy, Hope Foundation for Children, run by Lenny and Nadia Suarez, I want to thank our donors today who have shared their love with the children of this home. In case you wish to reach out to me so that we can reach out to the children of this home, you can send me a WhatsApp message on 98202 42151. Remember, that's an India number, so it's +91 98202 42151. Thank you, and let's meet tomorrow again for 9 o'clock with Father Warner.